Good afternoon, traders. It is Friday, March 12th, 2021, and the U.S. stock market is closed. I'm really late getting this up because I've been sleeping all afternoon. And I've been sleeping all afternoon because I was up all night last night. I'm going to tell you a little more about that. Let me just go through the statistics I have here from ProSuite, and then I'm going to talk about some alternative statistics and explain a little more why I was up all night last night. We had 17 positions coming in to this morning. We closed those out with positive $26,000. Um, we had uh, let's see, we got into 14 new positions today, 5 positive, 9 were negative, and we're have negative $6,600 in open trade equity carrying over the weekend. And the Dow, you can see here, had a very consistent move. You would think we would make tons of money with that. Um, and I wouldn't be staying up all night, but uh, I'll explain that in a second. Dow officially closed up 293 points, and of course made another um, all-time record high there on the close. Okay, yeah, I was up all night last night because what I'm showing you here in ProSuite, which is just showing you the moves for the day session. This does not include the aftermarket or the pre-market. And we had absolutely huge moves in the aftermarket and pre-market yesterday afternoon, early evening, and very early this morning. And those moves are not being recorded here. And it was those moves that had me up. I have a um, good customer friend who's been lecturing me about my sleep patterns. And he believes that to be healthy, you need to have nice, uninterrupted baby sleep from 9:30 in the evening to about 6:30 or 5:30 maybe in the morning. And that is not what I have experienced in my life at all, and nothing's going to change, unfortunately. And last night was a good example, but since we're talking about sleeping patterns, I'll tell you some really old stories going way, way back. I got totally busted by markets, and bad women, bad combination there, and I ended up having to drive a taxi cab for 2 years. And I drove 12-hour all night shifts in a big city, driving drug dealers, drunks, and hookers around town. If you want an interesting job, that's an interesting job. But anyway, I went 2 years with very little sleep. Uh, I am 77 years old. I'm raising a 20-year-old boy, and I'm making over $1 million a year. And I'm very healthy, and I plan on be doing this till I'm at least 100 years old, and I see no reason why I shouldn't. So if anybody wants to lecture me about health, wait till I'm 100 and I'll talk to you about it. Anyway, so what happened last night? Well, um, the stocks really started to move in the aftermarket. I mean, incredible moves in the aftermarket. And then this morning at 1 a.m., when the pre market opens, I saw our positions, my positions in, not on ProSuite, because ProSuite doesn't run in the after pre market, but TradeStation does. And I saw my total equity between $60,000 and $70,000 at about 1:03 a.m. this morning, and I was absolutely ecstatic about this. And I put on my headphones and started listening to rock and roll music, and thought this was going to be the best night I've ever stayed up. And it turned into an absolute nightmare. And by the time I got out of all that, after the close today, I had dropped about $60,000. So that is not reflected in the statistics I just showed you. And yet you got to understand, this is all how you're doing accounting. I take my TradeStation accounts, and I have several of them. Some are managed, and I write the net worth of those accounts every day, just one date every day, and it's a net worth on the close of the aftermarket. And so, even though I'm showing good statistics here with ProSuite, I lost about $60,000 between yesterday afternoon and today afternoon. So I'm not very impressed with these statistics. Yet I'm not giving you an accounting craziness here. Wouldn't make any difference what platform you're using, ProSuite, MultiChart, or TradeStation. You should find all these trades that I'm listing from ProSuite in there, but this isn't taking into account the net worth of the account, which includes open trade in the pre-market and aftermarket. So that's all I'm talking about, and I'm going to illustrate this a little bit more with the stocks I'm going to show you. And let's go to, okay, this is NVAX, which is Novavax. Okay, we bought this thing yesterday on a little pop here, and then it went way up this morning on the open on this chart. I'll talk about that in a second. And we got stopped out here, and we took $5,400 out of Novavax, and then we got re-entered in it today. We got about $2,000 in open trade in Novavax. Okay, that looks pretty typical. What is not typical, and what you're not seeing here, is that this very top of this chart only goes up to about 215, and that was nowhere near where we got out of here. The aftermarket and pre-market, this stock was up to like 235, 240. That's not even on this chart. And at that level, this Novavax, we only took $5,400 out. It was more closer to $20,000. We didn't see that, okay? And yet, that loss is reflected in what I'm talking about when I say I lost $60,000 between yesterday and today, okay? I hope, and I'm going to show you another one here that's the same deal, and there's several of these. Okay, this isn't the only one, but this is ALT, which is Altimmune Incorporated, and we bought this yesterday on a pop. It did close profitably. We got out with, at least on this chart, looks like a little bump up there, and we took $4,200. People, this morning at 1 a.m., this thing was up like 35,000, almost $40,000 in this stock. Unbelievable move. And okay, so from 1 a.m. this morning until 6:30 when the stock market opened, regular session, I sat in front of the screens nearly puking my guts because all this money went up in smoke. Over $60,000. Yeah, and that's really tough. I would have been much rather driving those cabs with the drunks, hookers, and drug dealers. So, all I'm saying, you want to sleep like a baby. Yeah, trading is not for you. Yeah, we traders have to stay up sometimes. We traders trade overseas sometimes. We got a lot of weird hours. I've been doing weird hours my whole life, and I'm a very healthy guy, and I'm doing very well. And I don't think there's many people 77 years old that are doing as well as I am, and planning on be doing it till they're 100 years old. So, um, that's just my thoughts and my opinion. But yeah, in spite of what we're seeing here on paper and on the website, I feel like today was a pretty crappy day. But none of that action is being shown in these charts because it doesn't include the aftermarket and the pre-market. And what's happening just the last few days is that we're getting 3/4 of the market move in the aftermarket and the pre-market, and since we don't trade that, we're not getting a piece of it. And unfortunately, I've told you I'm trying to design a portfolio that takes advantage of these very big moves. So we get just a couple of these really big moves a month, and it vastly improves our profits for the month. And what we've seen, it's been so frustrating. I think we've had 8 stocks, if I count correctly, that have had these huge moves. The problem is we're not getting out. Our timing isn't right to get the money from those huge moves. We're just getting into them and watching them move wildly profitable and then flop by the time we get out of them. And that I'm concluding this ALT trade and the Novavax trade. Both those, we had opportunities for huge profits in them, but we weren't getting out in the aftermarket and pre-market. I will tell you, however, that stock price patterns are ever changing, and as soon as you try and alter the system to take advantage of what you're seeing here, so maybe somehow we're getting out in the aftermarket or out in the pre-market or so on, those patterns will change. And if you're chasing price patterns, you're always going to be one step behind. You're not going to get it. So you just stay put, wait for the markets to come back to your algorithm, and that's how you make money. I've learned that the hard way so many times. So anyway, yeah, I'm well rested after my afternoon sleep, And I'm looking forward to the weekend. I wish you guys a great weekend, and I will be back here Monday trading as usual. And don't forget, it's daylight savings, so the time will be a little different on Monday.